3, 2, 1, and go. So, hey guys, welcome back to Filter Coffee Football. And this is our segment on Transfer Edition. And we are going to be looking at other clubs now that we've covered Arsenal in our previous episode. And we're going to go for the alphabet on an alphabetical order. Joining me is my friend, colleague, whoever, whatever, Akshay. And okay, let's go. Without further ado, Aston Villa and Aston Villa's most famous exit, Jack Grealish, £100 million. What do you think of it?
Oh, that's fabulous money for Aston Villa, and a lot of the club fans are probably not very happy with the move because they think he should have stayed at the club, should have retired as a legend. But I mean, you're Jack Grealish. You see him on the pitch, you know he's meant to win trophies, and in the Premier League, Manchester City is probably the most surefire way of winning trophies. And people might talk about the price tag, but in the end, the worth of a player is whatever you're paying for it. So if the club thinks Jack Grealish is worth 100 million, he's worth 100 million. He was definitely one of the brightest spots on game week 1 for Manchester City. So I think this is a fabulous move for Villa, and they have already reinvested that money in amazing fashion. So let's go forward with how they've actually used that money now.
So now, okay, on the incomings, if you notice, Aston Villa actually released a note from their CEO saying, yeah, we understood that there is a possibility of Jack leaving and we had set an astronomical price. If somebody matches it, fine, fair enough. But we'll use it to reinvest in not just one, but multiple players. And that's, for example, they got Danny Ings, they got Leon Bailey, they got Emi Buendia. And that's like 3 proper attacking signings, although I am not really sold on Danny Ings. But that's 3 attacking signings to replace your number 10, your star of stars. Makes a lot of sense to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree on that because it's like one of those things, right? If you're trying to replace a player like Jack Grealish, how do you find a player to replace? Well, you can't find a player to replace him. You have to find a bunch of players to kind of take up that mantle. Bendia is a proven entity in the Premier League. Even on the season that Norwich was relegated, he was a standout for the club, and everyone was surprised when he decided to stay with Norwich in the Champions League and help them get promoted again. But he finally is at a club which is almost guaranteed to stay in the Premier League. So great move for him, great move for Villa. I'm really excited about Leon Bailey because he's been in and around the works for the next big thing for a while now, and this is finally his chance to prove that. And as for Danny Ings, I completely beg to differ. I think he is a proven Premier League goal scorer. Southampton have tried to hold on to him, but he has wanted to go for a bigger move. I agree he's not a top 6, top 8 level striker, but he's definitely a solid Premier League goal scorer. As long as he gets that delivery, he's going to score. And in Emi Buendia, you have a player who is definitely going to give you that kind of delivery. So all in all, I think fabulous transfer business from Aston Villa. Not to mention, they also got an Axel Tuanzebe on loan, who's again a great player. I think he should probably get a permanent move sometime soon because clearly I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer thinks that he's going to have a long-term plan for Tuanzebe. But yeah,
Correct.
I mean, overall, I think Aston Villa has done some of the best business this season.
They also got Ashley Young for his swan song,
Oh
probably.
yes, of course, yeah, I know. I mean,
Nice touch. Nice
yeah,
touch.
boyhood club. One possible club legend goes out, and the other one, not necessarily a legend, but at least another club kid comes right back in. So I mean, that's a great touch by the club, and I hope Villa do give him some game time, and Ashley Young gets to retire at the club, then give him his big break.
Correct. Moving on to Brentford.
Yeah, no, Brentford, I don't think Brentford have done a whole lot of transfer business. The great thing about Brentford, though, is they follow the whole Moneyball method with their transfers. The same way Liverpool approached their transfer policy when Klopp joined in is they really cherry pick their players. They don't spend a lot of money and they don't buy too many players, but the players that they do buy are heavily researched into to fit into the system of the club and the team style and the tactics of the team. So even though they've only gotten in 2 players, I believe.
Christopher
Yes,
Iyer.
Christopher Iyer, and Frank Onyenka. Christopher Iyer is a proven centre back. He's a good player, solid. Premier League will be a big challenge for him, but he definitely has the talent for it. Onyenka for me is a completely unknown entity, but again, Brentford has this system of picking specific players, so I'm guessing that they have done their research, and I'm quite optimistic about them, especially after game week 1.
Shrewd business by them if it works out. Otherwise, okay, you never knew you were taking a risk. That's
Yeah,
fine.
I agree.
Hopping on to Brighton and Hove Albion. So Brighton also have had like a significant exit in
Mm-hmm.
Ben White.
Mm-hmm.
Great move for him personally. Great move for the club because they've got like, hey, 50 million pounds. That's a huge amount for them to like reinvest properly. And I think it makes good sense for Brighton to stick to that price and get maximum value out of a possible star. And I don't think they're letting go of Tariq Lamptey, who will again go for something similar.
Yeah,
What
I
do you feel?
agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, they still have talent in the team, and most importantly, it's a team that's built on a system. Graham Potter is a fabulous manager, and I trust that they will replace Ben White really well. I believe they're linked with Nat Phillips from Liverpool to fill in those shoes. And I think again, it's all about the management for this one for me. I think he's Brighton is a system team. It's not dependent on a single player. So I don't think they will be damaged by the move as much as a club like maybe Aston Villa possibly can be by Grealish moving on. So I think this is great business. Not to mention they're also linked to Odson Edward. So I don't see this move happening, but that shows a lot of ambition by the management.
Ambitious, definitely. Definitely. Do we want to jump to the next team?
Oh yeah, definitely. Uh,
Okay,
l- we're going up to I believe we're going to Burnley next.
true.
Wow, Burnley. Wow, they such a thin squad. They're possibly the thinnest squad in the Premier League, and not to mention they're also an aging team, and not a whole lot of business. I think the most important thing to talk about for Burnley is Everton trying to peel Dwight McNeil off of them. They're one, possibly their only star asset. I mean, again, no offense to Burnley fans, but um, I don't know. This season for me might be the season where Burnley bite the bullet and get relegated.
They apologies for the background noise. So they also got in Wayne Hennessy on an incoming, but
Sorry.
that's about it from him. Wayne Hennessy and Nathan Collins from Stoke. That's not too much business at all for a squad that's like paper thin and with a huge Premier League season, 38 games out, to contend with injuries, to contend with the pandemic. I don't really feel Burnley have done the right things right now, and maybe they might have to bite the bullet and get relegated.
Yeah, well, I hope they don't. They've come to define like the cold evening in Stoke, the cold rainy day in Stoke. It's more like a cold rainy day in Burnley now, just given their robustness in the Premier League, despite the fairly old school tactics that the team employs. But yeah, moving on to Chelsea, who have again, I mean, lots of clubs have had amazing transfer business this season, but Chelsea possibly a title clinching move with Romelu Lukaku.
So I think it's a massive move for them to like re-sign Lukaku on like close to 100 million pound again. That's huge money. But I'd also like to give credit to Chelsea where they have also been smart with their outgoings. If you noticed, all they have had the maximum outgoings of any team. For example, Fikayo Tomori to AC Milan, Tammy Abraham, supposedly he's almost done for Roma. So they've already recovered like at least 70% of what they paid for Romelu Lukaku. And I think that's smart business. It's smart business. What do you feel?
Absolutely. I mean, that was the biggest trouble for them last season, was that striker in front of goal. Timo Werner was just not wearing his shooting boots at all last season. And in getting in someone like Romelu Lukaku, they already have the delivery. Now you have someone to actually deliver on the end product. I mean, with the kind of delivery he has around him, I would not be surprised if he scores 20 plus seasons, 20 plus goals this season. Definitely. And not to mention, they're also being linked to Jules Koundé, which is again a very optimistic signing for the defense. Not that their defense honestly needs a lot of work. They did ship out some of their own youth products, Guehi over to Crystal Palace, and Tomori, like you mentioned, to AC Milan. But if they replace them with a talent like Jules Koundé, I mean, again, that's just great, great transfer business from Chelsea. What do you think? Do you think they have a shot at the league this season?
I definitely do think they should be contenders, at least with the signings they've made. I mean, from midway of last season, where they switched a manager to like winning the Champions League, and if you don't call them as contenders this season, then you're underperforming.
Yeah,
That's what I would feel.
I
So
definitely agree
they
on
are
that.
definitely in the title race, and their signings show. Their signings show for it.
Moving on from Chelsea to a club that's, well, definitely not going to be in a title race, but are at least hopefully trying to safeguard themselves from any kind of relegation. Crystal Palace. Please tell me about what they've done for their business.
Crystal Palace have been massive. I mean, be it their incomings or outgoings. I think, and even also they also have a new manager in Patrick Vieira. I don't know how successful he's going to be. The incoming seem to be a mix of most of youth signings, most of them on the younger side of 25, and with a team that's a fairly aging, this new youth influx could help. For example, them getting Michael Olise, them getting Maguire, them getting Joachim Anderson from Fulham. It makes a lot of sense for their transfer business and adds to their resilience under Roy Hodgson that they had. And maybe this is the difference that they want. And if they can get this season out the door and survive, or probably just climb up the ladder a little bit, I think they have built a strong core for the next few years. What do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, Crystal Palace has been the definition of cleaning house this season. I mean, this is a list of their exits this season. They got rid of Townsend, Van Aanholt, Sacco, Hennessy, James McCarthy, Gary Cahill, Scott Dan, and Connor Wickham. That's almost an entire XI that they let out of the club, and to absolute credit to the club, because most of these players have, even though they have been playing in and out, they have not been playing up to the mark. For the last 2 seasons, I believe Crystal Palace have just been cheating relegation, thanks to the exploits of Wilfred Zaha, who is still at the club. But I think these new transfers with this whole new look with Patrick Vieira in is an amazing move for the club. The only thing that worries me is it might be too much change, to the point where if these players and if this manager don't find their footing within the first couple of months, the results that they might bury themselves in might just be too much for them to recover from. So if they manage to survive this season, I believe this club is set for the next 4, 5, 6 years in the Premier League with this team. But they're gonna have a bit of a struggle, I believe, trying to survive just with the new team.
Could be definitely be teething problems that could go either ways. So here's hoping that Crystal Palace can figure it out within the first 6 to 8 game weeks, which sets the course for the season.
Yep.
Now we move on to Everton, who, in my opinion, have not really had a great transfer window, and I think they're leaving it a little too late with a new manager coming in. With there's again there's this history behind Rafa Benitez and James Rodriguez, their star player. So you're looking at a potential exit of your number 10, who's going to be your who was your creative person. And I don't see anybody lined up to take that role. it could be a difficult window for Everton. Although they've signed like Demarai Gray and they also got an Andros Townsend. I think they need to be more active in the window, or they have to like make moves fast, because this window might just end up being a meh window for them. What do you think?
I mean, I think as far as players coming in, it might still not be a great thing for them. But upside, I think the best move that they have made this summer is getting Rafa Benitez in. With him as a manager, with the team that they already have, it should be more than enough to easily finish in the top half. What I would be more interested in seeing is how much he can get out of that attack, with especially with Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Whether he can reignite a player like Sigurdsson in the absence of, in the presence of that friction with James Rodriguez, if he can get the most out of a player like Sigurdsson. I think managerially they have done the right thing. I don't know whether their massive spending in the past is going to handicap them for spending much in this transfer market. So I don't think they're actually going to get a lot more business done. But they should be fine. I think they should be fine this season, though.
Okay. Hopping on to Leeds United. Leeds as a team I've not really followed, but it's the Marcelo Bielsa story. So I think you're at a better place to like take this forward. Go on.
I mean, again, I followed the team, but not as deeply as as I would like to, obviously. But with Leeds and their transfer business, again, it's a lot like Brighton, where it's not about getting individuals; it's more about getting a player that fits that system. I mean, with Bielsa, Alioski left the club, and I think he was fabulous last season. But I think it was just a logical move for an aging player in a high tempo system that they understood that he wasn't going to be able to give as much, maybe. And in his replacement, he's gotten in Junior Firpo, who had an amazing season in La Liga before his move to Barcelona. Unfortunately, that move has not worked out, and Barcelona, with the financial crisis, have had to sell a player whom they thought was going to be a long-term replacement for Jordi Alba. So I think Leeds have done an amazing job in getting their hands on a player like him. They also got in Jack Henderson on a permanent move from Manchester City. And I think he's, again, another solid player. With Leeds, they're more than the sum of their parts, and I trust Bielsa to make the right kind of transfers. They've already shown what they can do in the Premier League. Again, for them, staying up in the league should be a priority, and I think they will be able to achieve that with the moves that they've made so far.
Great. And now we will switch to Leicester City. What a team, and what a transfer window they've had. I mean, they've made the moves. They've been blitzkrieg fast in this transfer window. Just look at their incomings, right? It was just the start of the window when they got Boubakary Soumare in. They got Patson Daka in. They've got Ryan Bertrand in. And they also like recently finished getting Yannick Westergaard. That's 4 top-notch signings. I think it's very smart and shrewd business from Leicester City, with the speculation of James Maddison maybe moving out or not really fitting into their plans. But they've made their moves so far so that even if James Maddison does do a move away, they've already replaced him and added more quality to their already existing lineup. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest criticism for Leicester in the longest time has been that their squad lacks depth. Is whenever they're hit by injuries, their season just seems to fall apart. And this transfer window, they have definitely aimed at fixing that issue. Each of the signings that you just mentioned, these even though they can be first team players in and of themselves, for Leicester, I believe they're more like squad rotation options. Patson Daka, I think, is going to be groomed to take over Jamie Vardy in the long run, even move around with Iheanacho. Vestergaard, amazing defender. I have no idea how Southampton let him go, but it just adds more depth to that defense. Same thing with Ryan Bertrand. They're trying to kind of work through the injury issues that they have had in the past by addressing those areas where they've had the most reason to worry about in the long run. So I mean, every time we think Leicester can't have a better transfer window, and they just do it again.
They've been smart. I mean, foxes are supposed to be smart, right? So they're living up to their moniker. That's all I would say. Now we'll jump on from a fox to the Liverpool to Liverpool. Liverpool have addressed one of their biggest gaps in getting Ibrahima Konate, but I think that's about it for their incomings in their transfer window. And their squad does need a few more additions with the loss of Jorginho Wijnaldum right now. What do you feel?
Well, I think the biggest issue with Liverpool is, well, it's not an issue. It's a very smart way to run the club, but the way FSG want to run the club is they want to only spend money that the club makes for itself through player sales and all of that stuff, and that has really hamstrung them because their most valuable assets are too important to the club to leave. For the longest time, for the last 2 seasons, we've been wondering whether one of the deadly trio, Firmino, Mane, or Salah, is gonna leave the club, and those are the only real players that are going to get huge transfer fees that might help Liverpool spend otherwise. So it's been hard for them to really find the cheap options that will help them really progress. And unfortunately, they've had a few more misses this time around. I do think that with the injuries behind them, they should have a much better, much more stable season. And the biggest worry that they have addressed in getting Konate in, because outside of Virgil van Dijk, who probably will still take a long time to recover, get back to 100% from an ACL injury, have always had issues with Matip getting injured and Joe Gomez getting injured. So getting another central defender is definitely a good move. But I do agree. I think they definitely need at least one more addition in midfield and maybe another bench option to help out the attack. Diogo Jota is amazing, but they probably need somebody else to kind of jump in when Firmino and Mane aren't really quite at the races.
The last touch on Liverpool would be they also extended Jordan Henderson's contract, so that's one more good move for them. They've kept their captain, and I think that's smart business. Although it's like sunset for Henderson in about 2 years. At this moment, for them, because they are not focusing too much on incomings, Henderson would probably be the right way.
Oh yeah, definitely. Where do you see Liverpool finishing this season?
I want to call them title contenders because they have it in them, but maybe because the season is far out and maybe they've gone a little thin on certain places, I think they'll end up third spot is what I am thinking about Liverpool. I think Liverpool will finish third.
Yeah, I definitely feel that they will finish in those top 4 places. In a season where they were absolutely ravaged by injuries, they still managed to finish in the top 4. Unfortunately, this season there's just too much competition, and I don't see them holding on, grabbing the Premier League title again. But yeah, I think that wraps up this first section of our transfers for the rest of the Premier League. Join us in the next video for the second half, where we go through the list and finish out the rest of the clubs in the Premier League. Also, please catch the previous video where we discussed Arsenal's transfer moves and discussed what are the goods, the bads, the uglies. And yeah, please like, share, and subscribe.
And also follow us on Instagram. Thanks. Bye-bye.